Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Always a delight to have with us our good friend, Dr. Paul Kreitz. He's an author, a preacher, a speaker, and he is a university president. He travels the world. He speaks all over the place. He is the guy that's been there and done that. And we're delighted to have him with him today. We're going to talk about one of his previous books, and that is The Weapon Called Time. There's a picture of it there on the screen. Weapon Called Time, and you can go to drpaulkreitz.com and order that book. And here we are into the fall, back to school, all these things. We need to develop some new routines, and he's here to help us with that. Hi, Paul. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Well, it's just great to be with you. And you know, there's an old saying. What you're doing daily is determining what you're becoming permanently. Let me say that again. Okay. What you're doing daily is determining what you're becoming permanently.
Wow.
And so today, out of my book, A Weapon Called Time, one of the chapters is a weapon of a successful routine. Now, Perry, let me just say this. Everyone listening to us today, your routine, what you're doing every day, is either moving you toward your desired future or it's moving you away from it. What you're doing today and every day, that's your routine. It's moving. You know, someone said if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. And so here at this time of the year, this season, it's extremely important for us to say and evaluate our routine. And I want to teach today and talk to you and all those that are listening about a successful routine and how you create a successful routine.
All right, very well put. And it's been said, Paul, that it takes 60 days to acquire a habit and 120 days to break one.
Or long.
Yeah, it takes twice as long. So, in essence, what you're saying is we got to stop the cycle we're on and create a new one.
Yeah, people keep asking me, and I see them ask this to successful people, and God's blessed me with a measure of success, and I'm grateful for the influence and how we've been able to preach the gospel in 40 nations, how I've been able to now serve the Lord for 37 years in full-time ministry. And so I'm sitting here and I'm telling you, and I'm telling everyone listening, the answer to that question of how you arrive at that desired goal. It's not just getting in a prayer line and letting a man of God lay his hand upon you. It's not just continuing to read the scriptures, which you should do that every day. But there are some secrets to a successful routine, and they begin in your right thinking. If you think right, you begin to act right. In other words, your actions are coming out of your thinking. So we've got to first start with your correct thinking, and you got to sit down and you got to make a decision of where you would like to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What is the desired future that you have?
The one thing that we all have equally is time. Some use it better than others.
86,400 seconds a day. We all have the same amount. You have the same amount as the president or the Queen of England. You have the same amount as those that have lived before you. And how do you impact that time? Because time can't be saved. Time can't be found. Time can only be invested into those things that you desire to get you to your goal. Now, let's take this a step further. Let's say you've got your right thinking in place. And so now, how am I going to get there? And this is a great secret. I'm about to give one of the greatest secrets that's going to help someone listening today, and it's in the book, A Weapon Called Time, is that successful people don't figure out all their outcomes. They don't figure out whether they're going to make 50 million or 100 million, or whether they're going to have their mortgage paid off in 5 years or 10 years. They always don't completely get it always figured out. But here's what they do. They decide their habits. They make a decision about their habits. Their habits become their routine. You know what a habit is, Perry? It's simply something that you do twice. Anything you do twice becomes easier. So when you develop a habit of driving by Starbucks instead of a habit of stopping there and spending a lot more money for a cup of coffee than you should, or and your desired goal is to be able to buy a car with cash and not have to finance your vehicle. When you develop a habit of wanting to be a successful person, you don't know what the top 3 television shows are every evening of the week. You don't have 5 of your favorite shows. I was watching Steve Harvey do a lecture the other day, and he said, when I decided to be a success, I realized I would never know what a television program was like, because I worked all day and then I came home in the evening and I focused in on where I wanted to go. My job paid the bills, but my habits took me to my desired goal.
All right.
So your habits create your routine.
You set up a big question. How do you break a bad routine?
Well, you've got to first start in your thinking. Remember, Zig Ziglar, the great motivational speaker, said, the problem is we need a checkup from the neck up because we've got stinking thinking. And a lot of our habits have been formed from, that which we've seen in front of us, from our growing up days, our childhood days. Someone said to me one day, Dr. Kreitz, you just don't know where I grew up. I said, that's not the problem. It's not where you grew up, it's what grew up in you. The thinking that was created by there. There are a lot of folks that grew up in poor towns. There's a lot of folks that grew up around poor health habits. And there are a lot of folks that grew up around wrong influences. But they made a decision. Your decision determines your destiny. If I could give you 3 words today, it is decisions determine destiny. You can pray all day long, but at some point, you've got to get off your knees and you've got to make a decision. Someone listening to me right now, you want to make some decisions. You say, well, I don't know what the consequences with those would be. Well, let me ask you this. What are the consequences if you don't make those decisions?
Good. One other quick question before we take a break. Back to stinking thinking. I am amazed, Paul, how many Christians are so cynical. And it seems to be in contrast with what they supposedly believe.
It really borders on schizophrenia, doesn't it?
It's just amazing. It's amazing. So how could they ever possibly develop a good routine if their attitude is, oh, well, it's going to turn out bad anyway?
Well, when we come back from the break, I'm going to give you 5 steps. It's right out of my book, A Weapon Called Time.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 5 steps to a successful routine, and we're going to break that down, and we're going to get some answers.
All right, there you go. By the way, you can order the book, Dr. Paul Kreitz, Dr. Paul Kreitz, CRITES.com, and the book is entitled A Weapon Called Time. It's a great resource. Check it out. A Weapon Called Time at drpaulkreitz.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and our good friend Dr. Paul Kreitz is with us today, and we're going through one of his earlier books, and this is a fascinating book, and I think you're going to find it as a great resource. Are you frustrated with your schedule, your time, your routine? It just doesn't seem to be producing what you want it to produce. Let me encourage you to get a copy of this book. It's called A Weapon Called Time. Now, there's one thing we've all been given equal, and that is time. We all have the same amount of time every day. How are you using it? How's it working for you? So you may want to order this, A Weapon Called Time. You can go to Dr. Paul Kreitz, drpaulkreitz.com, and that's C-R-I-T-E-S, and order the book. So, Paul, you're saying good routines produce success, routines produce schedules, and schedules get interrupted.
Well, schedules get interrupted by a crisis, and all a crisis is, whether it's a little crisis or a big crisis, whether you have a flat tire or one of your family members is very ill and in the hospital, whatever the crisis is, a crisis is simply a break in your focus. That's all a crisis is. It stops your focus on your daily routine. So when the crisis ends, you've got to get back. And yet there are people listening to me today that went through a crisis 5 years ago. 7 years ago, financial, bankruptcy, a divorce, a death, and you've never been able to get back into a routine. You've never been able to capture your day. Perry, if I go to Mexico, the currency there is a peso. In Japan, the currency is a yen. In the United States, we call our currency the dollar. But the currency of earth is time. There are people that are working right there in the ministry that are trading their time for a certain amount of money. Everyone listening to me, whether you clock in at the plant or you clock in at the store or wherever you're at, you own your own business, you're trading your time, which your time is your life. You're trading your time for a value. If you want to see the value increased in your world, you've got to go back and break it down to the smallest places, the smallest fragments. And that is what you're doing with your time comes from the habits that you've created. The habits create your daily routine. Your routine births your schedule. What's important, what's not important, what's a priority, what's not a priority. So I said before the break, how do we do this? And of course, I could sit here all day long and talk to you about right thoughts and right words and right actions and repeating the actions. That's really what we're talking about here with a routine. But let me just make it even simpler. I wrote in this book, and you've got to get this book, 5 Steps for Starting Your Day with a Successful Routine, because this is what I believe, Perry. How you start your day, how you birth your day, really carries you through your day. There's some people that slam their hand on the alarm clock or they grab their cell phone when the alarm goes off, and off they go running and running and running, and they're just in a run from the moment their feet hit the ground. And so let me just give you 5 steps. Before you get out of bed, recognize the gift of the day. Stop and recognize that you woke up today. God's given you a gift. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow has not arrived. So you've got the present. God's given you a present. He's given you a gift. So the first step is to recognize the gift of today. This is the day, the psalmist said, that the Lord's made. I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. Secondly, begin in God's presence. I don't care if it's a 30-second prayer. Breathe a prayer to God. Let God know that you know He knows you're awake. Begin in God's presence. Ask Him about your day. Ask Him about your schedule. The Holy Spirit knows way what's going to happen before you do. So begin in God's presence. Number 3, build your faith. Build your faith. Find some affirmations. I've got a bunch of them in my books. 3 John 2 tells me I'm healthy and I'm wealthy and I'm blessed of the Lord. Every day I say that. I'm healthy and I'm wealthy and I'm blessed of the Lord. The Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he. So begin to build your faith. And never forget, what you hear is what you're going to believe. What you consistently hear is what you're going to believe. Number 4, and you're not going to believe this one, Perry, but you've got to benefit from your clothing. You've got to benefit from your clothing. You've got to dress, now watch this, the way you want to feel, not the way you feel. Have you ever saw someone and you looked at them and you thought, man, they must have woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or they didn't even wake up. They just walked in their closet and grabbed something and threw it on and went out and I can't believe they're not dressed for success. They're not dressed for the way they want to feel. They were dressing the way they were feeling. I'm telling you, it's amazing how when I know for me, when I get dressed and put on a suit and put on a pair of nice shoes and I feel different. I feel better. It's amazing just combing my hair, how much I feel different. And someone might be saying, well, I don't have much hair to comb. Well, use whatever God's given you. And then finally, number 5, believe God has scheduled this day for your success. Perry, I don't know about you, but I believe in divine appointments. I believe that when I came to Northern California to speak at a men's event, and the host, our friend Drake Travis, said, let me take you up to Medford. I want you to meet a gentleman that's there with a television station. I believe with everything in me that morning that I woke up that God had a divine appointment for me. I believe that you and I have walked in incredible success because that day, like today and yesterday and every day, I'm believing that God is helping me to schedule my day. And so you take these 5 steps in birthing your day and never forget what you're doing daily. What you're doing daily is determining what you're becoming permanently.
5 of those are so powerful. Follow up with that. We should pray that the Lord would order our steps. And it's interesting, you said time is the currency of earth. And I would say the currency of heaven is faith.
Yeah.
So time and faith go together here.
Well, you have to believe God, and not just in one moment or one prayer, but you've got to stay steady day after day, week after week, believing God. Someone's listening to me and you've been believing God for one of your family members to come to Christ or come back to the kingdom. Don't give up. Keep it a part of your daily routine. Keep believing it. Keep speaking it. Bring God into everyday relevancy with that prayer. Someone's believing today for a breakthrough in your health. Breakthrough in your health. You want to be stronger. I'm telling you, surround yourself with faith, and as you birth your day, birth it in the presence of God. I know you don't feel well when you wake up. I have dealt with tremendous bouts of gout and arthritis. I've had a history of back pain, but I'm sitting here today, Perry. There's no back pain. I'm sitting up straight. There's no gout in my body today. There's no pain in my body. I'm so grateful to God. And I've been expecting this day to happen. I've been believing for this day because the currency of earth is time and the currency of heaven is faith.
The first 2 are so important, Paul. Recognizing that the day is a gift from God and beginning in God's presence. I can't tell you how many people do hop out of bed. They haven't adjusted their thinking or their spirit. And you're right. They turn on a device and they let that device dictate their day. I think we're coming into a time now with all this modern technology where it's a new form of fasting. We got to fast from some of this stuff so we can hear that still small voice of God.
I'm doing a call every night, 8 o'clock Eastern, called the Increased Connection Call. I woke up at 4 a.m. the other day, and the Holy Spirit said, in the month of September, with all this doom and gloom, I want you to speak every day, Monday through Friday, to those that want to call in and hear 20 minutes of nothing but faith and increased teaching. And I've been having pastors and leaders from around the country join me, and it's been incredible. It's just been off the chain, as the young people say. It's been incredible. And that came to me in the early morning hours. Last night, I never turned on the TV. Last night, I fasted the evening just to watch a teaching video by a Bible teacher and just to rest. And this morning I woke up as refreshed as I can recall in weeks and weeks and weeks. It is so important. You know, the longer, Perry, that you stay in God's presence, the more God's presence stays in you. Isn't that great?
It's wonderful, Paul. Let me say to our viewers and listeners again, it's a book entitled A Weapon Called Time. How are you doing with your time management? How are you doing with your attitude about managing your time? Well, that's what this book deals with. And there's a picture up there on the screen. You can go to Dr. Paul Kreitz. That's drpaulkreitz.com and order the book. Paul, if people want to join you on those calls, can they get that information at your website?
Let me give it to you right now.
Am I out of bounds here?
No. I want everyone to call me.
Okay.
It's area code 605-475-4875. I'll say that again. Area code 605-475-4875.
And that's 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, right?
Yeah, and then they'll ask for a code, and here's the code: 535324. 535324. 535324. That's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5 o'clock over on the West Coast. 20 minutes of encouragement. I'm sending out an email on my email list. I know Paulina's on the list and others are on the list, and it'll have that information, and that will come to the station for those that want to call the station and get that information.
All right, thank you, brother. Kent, and again, let me just give you the 5 tips quickly here to get you started on a better routine. Recognize the gift of the day when you first wake up. Begin in God's presence. Build your faith. Take time to build up your faith. Dress the way you want to feel. Well, I can't, that one you could unpack for a week. We'll come back to that. And then the last one is believe God has scheduled a day for success. And I would say in that one, ask the Lord to order your steps. I ask the Lord every morning to order my steps and to order my words, because I'm in the word business. I got to make sure I don't mess up.
That's right.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. And let's stay in touch, huh?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless.
You too. All right. Dr. Paul Kreitz, CRITES.com. And you can call us here at the station. We'll give you that number if you want to join his connection call weekdays at 5 o'clock Pacific time. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, welcome back, and always a delight and an honor to have with us Todd Friel. He's the host of Wretched TV, seen right here on theDove, prime time weeknights, and aired at weird times throughout the day. You can go to wretchedradio.com. That is his website. And what a delight to have him with us. And Todd, I got to tell you, now don't let this go to your head, because I can get you a humility teacher. But you are rapidly becoming one of the most favored programs on the Dove TV network.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm opening up this letter that I got with some sort of booklet inside. What did you say?
Oh, there you go. Hey, you got the devotional.
I love this.
Yeah.
Do you know how many TV networks send out devotionals? You're it.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm not kidding. I just learned something, too.
What?
Barry, this is how you know that you're a germaphobe. Here's the envelope from the Dove Network, and then I look to the back. This is obviously the seal that has to be done after the booklet is inserted. This is the factory seal where the envelope came from. I open it here because I still think maybe somebody actually licks it here, and you could get something from that.
It probably was Sue, my personal assistant.
One at a time. Love this. Love that you guys do this. This is great.
Thank you. How are you, friend? Good to see you.
I'm doing very good. Very well. I didn't get homeschooled. I'm sorry. I'm one of those.
Really, in all honesty, you are rapidly becoming one of our favorite programmers on the Dove TV. People love your program, so thanks for what you do. I know you and your team work hard to put it out, so thank you. I want to get into the Kim Davis thing, Todd. Yeah. This is so interesting to me, especially the way it's happened in the last 24 hours where she's let out of jail. What's your take on this overall, just to your 30,000-foot view of it for a moment?
Very, very 30,000-foot view. I think that this brings to mind a big fancy theological term that we would do well to remember, and that is the term adiaphora. It's called the gray areas of life. If you're a Lutheran scholar, you would call it the Mitteldingen, the middle things that are neither black nor white. They're not crystal clear. In other words, different Christians could make different decisions on the very same issue. And I know this sounds kind of postmodern. It's not. It's biblical. You can both be right. There are areas that the Bible allows for, and you can read this in 1 Corinthians 8, 9, and 10, and Romans chapter 14, that says there are some things that are a sin to some and not a sin to others, and they are issues of the conscience. And this is a very important issue to understand, and I fear that we're violating this precept with the Kim Davis story. The options seem to be, for Kim Davis, you stay there and get fired. That's one option. The other option is you ask for an accommodation, beg them to work it out, like we basically do all the time in this country, unless, of course, you're a Christian. The third option would be you quit. Now, those are valid options, I think, for the Christian community. And there are some people who are saying, no, you've got to do this, even though you feel like that. And we don't want to do that, because if my conscience, even if I'm wrong, is telling me to not do something, I don't want to override my conscience and do it when my conscience is saying don't do it, even though my conscience is ill-informed at the moment. Because if I do that, then the next time my conscience sets off its alarm bells, I might be inclined to throw a blanket over it and not listen to it again. Mm-hmm. So we need to recognize that different Christians can make different decisions in different areas. And I don't want to parachute in on Kim Davis's life or your life and say, you've got to do it this way. We've got to allow for some liberty in some of these very complicated issues.
All right. Now, some of the emails that I got over the last couple of days, because I think she's going to be somewhat the icon of religious freedom as we know it today. I mean, she's going to become the case that we're going to watch. Now, I agree with you. She could have quit. The state could have stepped in and fired her because she is an elected official. But you had a rogue judge jump out of his jurisdiction and take the case on. That's another issue. Some people complain that, wait a minute, she's out of order because she swore to uphold the Constitution. True, but at the time, gay marriage wasn't an issue. Today it is. So what she swore to uphold wasn't the case that she's now has to uphold. I mean, this thing is full of all kinds of conditions, you know.
And that's the thing that you are being, I think, more thoughtful and high-minded about this than a lot, not all, but a lot of the commentators on the issue. This is complex. And if we just look at this, make up our mind and say, I would do this, therefore you should do that, I don't think we're being as thoughtful on the issue as we should. So you asked for what I think is the big point. From my perspective on this is that as we Christians debate this issue, we recognize its complexity, we recognize issues of conscience, we recognize that there can be some gray areas, some adiaphron in life, and we talk about it and work through these Brave New World issues lovingly with unity as we try to figure out what is a big mess.
All right. It appears that the judge was out of bounds by doing what he did, and he seemed to try to get himself out of the mess by letting her out. That has created a lot of ambiguities in the law as how her case will go forward. But here in Oregon, I don't know if you've paid attention to this yet, Todd, but we have a sitting circuit court judge who's decided that he would not perform any marriages so that he wouldn't have to perform gay marriages. Now, that judge happens to be a friend of mine. In fact, when I was chairman of the Oregon Republican Party, he was my secretary, so he and I are pretty good friends. And I'm watching this and I thought, now there's an interesting twist. You got a judge who's refusing to do all marriages so that he doesn't have to violate his conscience in doing a same-sex marriage. There's another precedence in this argument.
Yeah, there's a judge in Tennessee who is refusing to actually do the divorce paperwork, almost rather satirically, stating to the Supreme Court, well, we's just so stupid here about marriage. We need you to decide everything, so we're not going to decide nothing. I get your friend. I understand that. And I think that that's a valid option for the Christian. This is, if you want to come to something that's analogous, modern day with the Bible, this is pretty much a Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego kind of moment. This is a Daniel in the lion's den kind of moment. You will worship, you will bow down to a false god, a man, and not worship the true and living God. And the boy said, then you're just going to have to do to me whatever you think best, because I answer the King of Kings. So we're seeing that exactly, in my estimation, played out today with your friend and with Kim Davis. Now, what I would caution against is stating, okay, so we're seeing that. We saw what the boys did, and we say that's the only option. I think that there are other options that can be considered. But staying in your job and saying, boss, I can't do this because I'm a Christian. And by the way, that God that I worship is going to judge you for this one day. Got to get the gospel and want to make sure I talk like a Christian. But we can stay and let them do to us what they must, because I think we have biblical support. But Perry, having said that, now I want to fast forward to the New Testament and I take a look at the life of Paul. If you recall, when he was in a country in the Middle East, I want to say Thessalonica, the Judaizers were coming at him and they wanted to kill him because he was upsetting the whole world. And what did he do? He skedaddled. There were times when Paul was let out the wall in a basket so that he didn't have to face persecution and get stoned. So there's a time when we can take our knocks. There's a time when we can say, I quit and flee. And we leave it up to the individual Christian to make that decision. And Perry, I think that this is so important because if we want to make sure that we're focusing on the main point, we can disagree on the response of Kim or your judge friend in Oregon. But the bigger point, we're all on the same page. Government, you're overstepping your bounds and you're sinning. And we should be united in that message.
Let me pop a little question at you. We may have to take a break and finish it, but think of it this way. Maybe we ought to defend the Kim Davises and the Vance Day, the judges now at this level, because if we don't, it's coming to the pulpit. It's coming to the licensees of Christian broadcasters. I mean, don't we want to fight this now instead until it's in our own backyard?
Yeah, you know, if we don't get the clues, and if we don't see the signs that it's marching toward the church door and toward the Christian home door, then we're being really silly. The question then becomes, all right, we all agree that's coming. Now we can ask ourselves the question, when you say fight it, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we do that? What's the point? What's the goal? Those are huge questions.
All right, let me take a break because I'm wondering if we have developed an immunity to what's happening and even to evil. I mean, here we are 2 weeks out from video number 7 of Planned Parenthood, and we're not talking about it. What's happening to us? Are we becoming numb to all of this stuff? Todd Friel's with us. He's the host of Wretched TV, and you see him prime time on the Dove television network. And one of the most favored programmers that we have. We get a lot of letters on you, Paul, or on you, Todd, and I think what I'm going to do is start forwarding them on to you. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and our good friend Todd Friel's with us today. He is the host of Wretched TV and radio. His website, by the way, is wretchedradio.com, and he writes a lot of books. There's a ton of resources there, and let me encourage you to put that on one of your favorites, wretchedradio.com, and you can get a lot of his material there. Todd's program, Wretched TV, is seen on the Dove TV network, primetime on weekdays, and then you'll catch it throughout other portions of the day as well. Todd, it appears that this attack now is clearly focused at the Christian faith. Now, some would say we're being overreactive, but let's turn this around. Will a judge ever force a Muslim caterer to serve pork? Will a judge ever force a Muslim to take their headpiece off to do a passport picture? And the list goes on and on. This seems to be very pointed at the Christian faith. Yes or no?
Which is a humongous encouragement. That, okay, while those questions you ask are rhetorically powerful, there's a much bigger point behind them. Why don't we ever hear about some sort of tussle, an Orthodox Jewish man who's a photographer going to jail because he wouldn't shoot the Christian wedding on a Saturday? There's a lot of cases like this, Jehovah's Witnesses with the American flag. All kinds of exceptions are made, except for you Christians. Now, why is that? That should tell us something. They're not warring against us. How prophetic was Jesus? He nailed this again. They hate you because they hate me. Jesus is reigning in heaven. Of course, God is omnipresent, but we're left here to do his work. They can't get a hold of Jesus' flesh again, so they come after his representatives. And well, look, we're not excited about that. Jesus talked about it. He warned us about it, and he told us what is really going on here. They aren't hating us per se. They're hating the one we represent. That leads us then into trying to define what our response is. When we understand what's happening here, they're really not warring against the Constitution. This is not really about gay marriage. This is about hating Jesus by hating us. So now we're reminded, okay, this isn't just, it is, but it's not just a battle in the physical realm. This is a battle for souls. This is a battle in the spiritual realm. And then I'm led to the book that helps me understand how I navigate my way through this. And First Peter makes it clear. This is a spiritual battle for souls, and we need to keep our eye on evangelism. It does not mean we ignore the issues of constitutional, the 9th, the 10th Amendments, state rights. Doesn't mean we just forget all of that. But when we talk about all of these issues, we need to be mindful as Christians what is really going on here. This is a battle for souls.
Well said. Because in the meantime, we seem to be numb to what's happening. I'm surprised how many faith leaders, pastors, who are upset that we would talk about these issues that would cause them to get feedback from their parishioners to talk about these issues. In other words, they don't want to talk about these issues. And in the meantime, we don't seem to be upset about Planned Parenthood anymore. We were pretty much in shock and awe for a while, but we're not following through with that, which is an amazement to me. And now we have these cases of religious freedom that's being challenged, and we seem to be getting pushback from our fellow brothers and sisters that say she's wrong, she violated her oath of office. We're not understanding the problem here. And if it's a battle for souls, I have no problem people being silent over an issue if in their spare time they're out evangelizing. But that doesn't seem to be going on.
Yeah, again, as I listen to you, Perry, everything you said was cogent. It all, yes, 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 yes. But then you start adding up all of those statements, yes, yes, and then there's, yeah, and then there's, and you just start to feel like, oh, this thing is such a ball of yarn, just all twisted up, and it's such a mess, and there's nothing I can do without sounding all like wacky religious TV programming. That's a lie from the pit of hell is what that is. That the devil loves to keep you on the bench, to keep you sidelined by listening to the lie that says, if you can't do something big, don't do anything at all. That is not what we are called to do. If you are faithful where you're at with the gifts that God has given to you, you can do that. So do that. And while you're doing that, I'll do what I can do. Perry does what he can do. And quite honestly, we're not sure what that is, but he can do what he do. And when we all do this together and we're all focusing on glorifying God, then God will give us the results. So don't be sidelined. Figure out what your gifts are. What can you do? And start doing it.
Where do you think this is leading? What's ahead for us from your perspective?
Well, it's leading to a lot of places. If you just take a look at the country, Barack Obama has been an amazingly great president.
All right.
You heard me. He has been. When he said, I am going to fundamentally change this nation, he has been mostly successful. And he's got, 14 months to go? So he's come through with his promise. He has changed this in ways that I don't think we ever imagined, Perry. When you remember the Carter years and gas and what should we do about rescuing the hostages? Should we be a big military, small military? Those were questions that were big, but wow, he's going after different stuff. What is morality? Who defines what truth is? What does it mean to be right on an issue? What is the role of the government in our lives? I mean, these are monstrously big fundamental shifts that he has caused in America. So we're seeing that. We're seeing a changing, a rewriting of what this country is. It feels different because it is different. And so I think we see that. I think we also see its effects on the church. I just read of another guy. He happens to be the pastor of the governor of Kentucky, because everybody's wanting the governor of Kentucky to call a special session. So I believe it was Christian Post decided to call up his pastor and see what the his position was on homosexuality. Well, it's interesting. His response was, and this is a tell, he said, well, we don't take a position as a church. It's so complicated in the Bible. We let every Christian decide. So what I learned from that is that's another one of the responses from more liberal churches in response to the gay issue, how they're going to still call themselves Christian without actually adhering to the Bible. That's because we're having to make sure that we can stay an entity without getting persecuted. So churches are having to redefine themselves. So one of the results of all of this is a redefined Christianity. We're seeing a separating very clearly of the majority of liberal churches, progressive churches, with a very much smaller, more conservative, biblical-based churches. We're seeing a divide in the church.
Okay, so we're in a battle for souls. We're also in the battle, I think it's the John 10:10 thing, are we for life or are we for death? Jesus, I come that you might have life. The devil comes to kill, destroy, and to kill. So we got this battle of life and death going on, and yet there seems to be a big portion of our country that wants to give money to a country that wants to kill us.
Yeah.
I mean, have we lost our minds?
Yes. Yes, yes. I wrote a number of years ago. Ann Coulter wrote a book. Her titles get more bombastic with every book, but it was something like "Liberalism is a Mental Illness." Now, I don't appreciate that title. I don't think we should be talking like that for a lot of reasons. But she was, in a sense, correct. The theological term is the noetic effect of the fall. Our brains are busted, and the further away we get from the truth, from biblical principles, from being led by the Spirit, having our minds renewed, the more bonkers our thinking becomes. And that is exactly the progression that we see in Romans 1. Our thinking becomes darkened. So when you watch the news, when you listen to the president, when you watch the deal with Iran, and you go, what? Think noetic effect of the fall. That is precise. Their thinking is just bad. It's not in alignment with what is wise, because they're not wise. They can be smart, but they're not wise. The only way wisdom is wrought onto a person is through regeneration and the renewing of the mind through the word of God. And I think of a proverb, Perry, when there's bad leadership, I'm paraphrasing, when there's bad leadership, the people groan.
And when the righteous rule, they rejoice. Boy, that's powerful because, as you know, the Iran supreme leader came out within hours today and saying, death to the great Satan, America, and Israel will be no more in 25 years. And we're still going to sign this deal. I mean, we've lost our minds.
Yeah, but you're right, we have. And so now I look at that and I can go, ah! And I can say, and I can say to myself, this is why we need Donald Trump or whoever your favorite happens to be. Okay, that's important. But even more than that, I look at it and go, their brains are busted. Why are their brains busted? Because they're in Adam. That means when they die, as much as I hate their foolish thinking and I hate their ungodly stance, they're going to face God and they're going to be cast. They're not going to go through some chute. They're going to be cast into hell. And that should actually motivate me to start thinking biblically and evangelistically. Those people need the gospel. And then I get about the business of evangelizing the people that I'm not going to bump into Barack Obama anytime soon. But I can evangelize to the people that God has put in my path. And then maybe they bump into somebody who 6 degrees of separation from Barack Obama, because I want the man saved. He'll start making better, more biblical decisions, and he won't go to hell, and God will be glorified for even saving Barack Obama. So I use the frustrating news story, not just to get annoyed, because that's what Fox does to me. It gets me annoyed. But then I need to apply the Bible and get a more heavenly, eternal perspective so that I respond with compassion the same way that Jesus looked at the lost sheep of Israel.
That's beautifully said, Todd, because I think what at times we forget and how much we are influenced. I think we need to turn some of these things off, because you end up becoming a product of your environment. And if the only thing you're watching and listening is cynical media, you're going to go crazy. Your faith is going to die.
Look, during the break, I started reading this from you that everybody gets with they support Dove, which everybody should do, by the way. Have you shared the big opportunity that you have to reach more people yet publicly?
No, you and I are going to do that in a minute. Don't say it yet.
Okay. So, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Okay. I opened this up randomly. I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind. It's got a Bible verse, a little teaching. I need to be immersing myself in this, because if I'm just watching Fox, I don't have peace of mind. I'm torqued.
Hey.
So I need to be immersing myself more in Scripture than in cable news.
All right. WretchedRadio.com is his website. His television program is called Wretched TV. You see it here prime time on weekday evenings here on the Dove, and then throughout other parts of the day as well. Go to his website. He's got a lot of books there. He's got a lot of information. It's a tremendous resource, WretchedRadio.com. Thank you, Todd. God bless you, pal. See you soon.
Stay faithful, you guys.
Okay, bud. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.